Ladies and gentlemen, there are two words, just two. When whispered, not to the world, but into the silence of your own being, reality begins to bend. Doors open, coincidences rush in, delays dissolve. What you once called impossible starts calling your name. But here's the mystery, these two words are sacred. They are not meant to be shared, not with friends, not with family, not even with the mirror, because the moment you speak them out loud to someone who doesn't understand the language of the unseen, you weaken their power. Doubt creeps in, logic takes over, and the seed of your manifestation is stolen. You see, creation doesn't happen through effort. It happens through identity, through assumption, through becoming the state of what you desire before it shows up. And these two words, they are the gateway, a portal to the version of you who already has the thing you're chasing. You may think you're here for information. You're not. You're here for transformation. This isn't about a technique. It's about alignment. And alignment begins with the inner declaration, quiet, bold, and unshakable. So I urge you, don't just listen to this speech. Absorb it, feel it, become it. Because by the end of this message, you will not only know the words, but you'll know why they work, how to speak them into the fabric of your life, and what to do once everything starts shifting in your favor. Stay with me. You've been taught to speak in order to inform, to explain, to describe what is. But I'm here to awaken you to something much deeper, much holier, something that the ancients knew but the modern mind has forgotten. Words are not simply vessels of expression. They are the womb of your world. They are the invisible tools with which you sculpt your reality. You believe you are speaking words, but in truth they are speaking you into existence. Every sentence you utter, every phrase you repeat, every inner monologue you accept as casual thought, these are not empty vibrations passing through air. These are blueprints sent directly into the heart of creation. You may not see the effects instantly, but make no mistake, every word spoken in belief returns to you, not as echo, but as form, as people, as opportunity, as resistance, or as release. That is why it's not what you ask for that shapes your life. It's what you declare, what you inwardly accept as real. Now, listen very carefully, because this is where it all begins to shift. When I say declare, I do not mean with fanfare or performance. I mean a quiet knowing, a still, sacred inner voice that whispers reality into place, not because it wants to, but because it already sees it as done. The great tragedy is that most people speak their circumstances instead of their creation. They say, I am broke, I am tired, nothing ever works for me, no one listens. They think they're describing life, but they're prescribing it. These are not reflections, these are commands, orders to the unseen forces that obey only one master, belief clothed in word. Let that settle in your soul for a moment. You are always using this creative force. The only question is whether you are using it consciously or letting it use you unconsciously. The language of creation is not about complexity. It is not about eloquence or beauty or vocabulary. The language of creation is identity. The moment you say I am, you are invoking the most powerful phrase in the universe. You are defining the unseen substance of your being. I am is not followed by facts. It is followed by fate. Say it with fear, and fear follows. Say it with confidence, and the world reshapes itself to match. Say it with love, and love floods in. And yet most of us say I am and follow it with lack, with limitation, with disbelief. Not because we want to, because we were taught to. We were trained to be humble in all the wrong places. We were taught that boldness in speech is arrogance. But what we call arrogance, creation calls clarity. The universe does not care how loud you speak. It only listens to how certain you are. Let me give you an example. If a man stands in front of a mirror and says, I am successful, but his heart whispers, I am not, which one do you think will shape his life? The whisper. Every time. Because it is not the volume of your voice that creates. It is the intensity of your inner consent. This is why I say it's not enough to affirm. You must assume. You must speak the word and wear it like a skin. Live in it as though it were already true. You must think from the end, not toward it. Speak not as someone who desires, but as one who has already received. This is where most fail. They say, I am wealthy, and then look at their bank account for evidence. They say, I am loved, and wait for a text to prove it. But creation doesn't work that way. It doesn't follow proof. It produces proof. Your words do not respond to the world. The world responds to your words. So now I ask you, what are you saying when no one is listening? What are you whispering to yourself when the lights are off? That is the prayer being answered. That is the frequency you are living on. Your outer world is just a printout of your inner speech. The events you call life are just the echoes of yesterday's beliefs. And now you know. Now you are awake. You will no longer say, this is just the way things are. You will say, this is the way I've imagined them to be. And you'll begin to listen, to really listen, to the words you casually mutter. You'll catch yourself in the middle of a complaint and turn it into a command. You'll rise from victim to visionary simply by shifting the way you speak. You'll say, I am able, and watch as ability meets you. You'll say, I am chosen, and circumstances will bend to highlight your favor. You'll say, I am whole, and healing will begin, not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped speaking against it. This is the divine code. It's hidden in plain sight. The sacred texts of every tradition speak it in symbols. The mystics live by it in silence. The prophets proclaimed it with fire in their bones. And yet here you are, hearing it anew, not with your ears, but with your soul. Because something within you already knows this. You felt it in the quiet moments, in the déjà vu, in the flashes of clarity that vanish before you can explain them. You've always known your words held weight. You just forgot that they were bricks in the house you're living in. So stop waiting for the world to tell you what's possible. Start telling the world what is. I am is your permission slip. I am is your access point. It is the beginning of every miracle and the root of every breakthrough. Let the world say what it wants. Let logic argue. Let doubt rise. You hold to the word. Speak it in secret. Guard it with reverence. Repeat it until your bones believe. And when your body still feels tired, say, I am renewed. When your bank account looks dry, say, I am overflowing. When no one claps for you, say, I am celebrated. Because eventually the outer must mirror the inner. It has no choice. Creation isn't optional. It's law. And your words, they are the lawmaker. Speak them wisely. Speak them deliberately. Speak them in love. Because you are not here to describe life. You are here to declare it. And yet as you begin to declare, as you dare to claim the I am, you will notice something strange, an urge to share it, to explain it, to speak it into the ears of others, so that they might see your transformation and believe in it with you. But I must tell you with all the urgency of truth, do not. What is sacred must remain hidden, not because it is fragile, but because it is formless, and form takes shape best in silence. When you plant a seed into the earth, you do not pull it up each day to check if it's growing. You trust the mystery of dark soil. You let the unseen do its perfect work. Likewise, when you speak your creative word, when you say I am and attach it to the reality you choose to live in, you must seal it inside yourself like a sacred vow. Speak it inwardly, consistently, with unwavering faith, but share it with no one, not because others are evil or unworthy, but because they live in the logic of the seen, and you are speaking from the authority of the unseen. When you tell someone your declaration, especially one that has not yet taken visible form, they begin to reflect it through the lens of their own doubts, limitations, and fears. They look at your current results, not your inner shift, and without meaning to, they try to correct you back into their version of reality. Their words won't sound cruel. They may even sound caring. But make no mistake, every seed of doubt they plant becomes a delay in your manifestation. You do not need external approval for an inner truth. That is the trap. That is the noise. That is the delay. Because the moment you utter your desire into the ears of one who does not live by faith, you invite analysis. And analysis is the enemy of assumption. It begins to pull your declared word out of the womb of the subconscious, placing it back in the courtroom of reason. And what lives in reason must obey logic. But what lives in the unseen, what lives in spirit, is not subject to logic. It is subject to belief. Protect the early form of your vision as a mother protects a child in her womb. It doesn't need to be explained. It needs to be nourished in thought, in feeling, in stillness. It needs to be kept away from the friction of disbelief, the erosion of criticism, and the chill of intellectual doubt. You may say, but I want support. I want someone to believe with me. And I tell you now, your own belief is more than enough. It is not a group vote. Creation is not democracy, it is decree. In the early stages of manifestation, silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. When you are gestating a new reality, speak less, not just to others, but even to yourself. Let your declaration be brief but bold, I am. Let the feeling carry more weight than the words. Let the assumption become so normal, so familiar, that you no longer feel the need to announce it. Because true power never explains itself. It simply is. When you walk in the knowing of a fulfilled desire, your need to prove it vanishes. You do not need to convince anyone of what you already are. The rose does not ask permission to bloom. It simply opens in season. Likewise, your word, kept sacred, will blossom in its appointed hour without your needing to justify it. And here's what's miraculous. When you stop announcing your dreams, they begin arriving faster. Not because the dream changed, but because your energy stopped leaking into the world of opinion. You are no longer dividing your creative power between imagining and explaining. You are letting it gather, condense, focus. And when that happens, when your word becomes your atmosphere, reality bends. Quietly, certainly, powerfully. So don't feel pressured to reveal your inner work to outer eyes. Don't advertise what's being woven in secret. Let your transformation speak through results, not announcements. Let the shift happen so deeply that when the world finally sees it, they say, when did this happen? And all you will do is smile, because you will know it happened the moment you said, in silence I am, and told no one. You see, if you've made a silent declaration about who you are, one so sacred and potent that it must remain unspoken to the world, it brings us to a brutal but essential truth. Who you believe you are will determine everything. That's not just poetic, and it's certainly not some esoteric abstraction. It's practical, it's psychological, it's foundational. Let me put it plainly, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. If you say I am, and you follow that phrase with something weak, something bitter, something that reflects your current struggle instead of your intended strength, then you're not speaking the future into existence. You're reinforcing the present prison, and you're doing it with conviction, with energy, with identity. Human beings are wired in a very particular way. You act in accordance with what you identify as. That's why these two words, I am, are so deeply embedded in your psyche. They're not casual. They're declarations of being. And when you repeat them, they begin to shape the lens through which you perceive the world, and more importantly, through which the world responds to you. This is why people sabotage their own growth, because they're trying to achieve something without becoming the type of person who naturally achieves it. It's not enough to hope for wealth while still identifying as someone who's always scraping by. It's not enough to desire love while clinging to the belief that you're unlovable. That contradiction creates a split inside of you, a psychological war, and it paralyzes you. Do you know how many people live stuck in that contradiction? Thousands, millions, maybe more. They say they want to change, but every word they speak confirms the identity of the person they were yesterday. And the body listens, the brain listens, the world listens. You can't lie to yourself and expect real change. The unconscious mind, the core of who you are, doesn't respond to lies. It responds to belief that has been rehearsed into reality. So if you want to manifest anything at all, you must first become the version of yourself who already has it. You must speak from that place, think from that place, behave as though it were already true, not in a delusional way, but in a strategic, courageous, focused way. This is where the hard work comes in, not the outer hustle, but the inner shift, the daily recalibration of your identity. You need to ask yourself, who am I being today? Do my thoughts match the future I claim I want? Are my habits aligned with the kind of person I say I am? It's tough, and it's sobering, because most people want the result without the reconstruction. They want the fruit without growing the root. But reality doesn't work like that. Your identity is like a thermostat. You might spike in behavior, try something new, set a goal, declare a dream, but if your internal identity hasn't changed, you'll snap back to where that thermostat is set. It's inevitable. That's why people who win the lottery usually lose it all. That's why people who suddenly fall in love often sabotage it, because the identity didn't match the blessing, and so the blessing gets rejected, whether consciously or not. So what do? You change the setting. You raise the standard. You stop saying, I'll become that someday, and start saying, that's who I am now. And the moment you say it, not performatively, but sincerely, deeply, it starts to become true. You act differently. You speak differently. You see differently. Let me be brutally clear about something. This shift in identity is not comfortable. It will feel like lying at first. It will feel unnatural. But that's because you've spent so many years rehearsing a limited version of yourself. Of course, truth feels foreign if you've been loyal to falsehood for a lifetime. But that's no excuse to stay small. You're not meant to simply survive your story. You're meant to rewrite it. And that starts with the two words that define your character arc before the world ever sees the ending, I am. Not I wish, not I might, not I hope, but I am. This is where personal responsibility begins, and personal power is born. What you're about to discover could rewrite your entire reality. And the strange thing is, once you start to speak those words, I am, from a place of deep conviction, once you begin to embody a new identity, instead of begging for a new outcome, something else happens, something subtle, almost invisible, but incredibly profound. The world begins to shape itself around your assumption, and your imagination becomes the soil from which your future grows. That's not metaphor, that's reality. You might think imagination is reserved for children or artists or storytellers, but that's dangerously naive. Every single person is imagining something all the time, and more often than not, it's unconscious. They're imagining rejection before it happens, failure before they even begin, conflict before the words are spoken, and because of that, their life becomes an exact mirror of the worst-case scenarios they've rehearsed 1,000 times in their own minds. The imagination is not optional. It's not a toy. It's the womb of your experience. If you imagine consistently from the place of the person you used to be, you will remain that person, regardless of what affirmations you recite, what goals you set, or what external efforts you take. And so, this becomes the critical task. You must take control of what you imagine. This is where discipline meets vision. Imagination, when used intentionally, becomes your greatest tool, not for escape, but for embodiment, for becoming. So let's look at this carefully. If you want to shift your identity, if you want your words, those powerful declarations of I am, to stick, to take root in the subconscious and bear fruit in your life, you need to do more than say them. You need to see them. You need to feel them. And not as distant possibilities, but as present realities. Your imagination must begin to operate from the place you want to be, not toward it. That's the difference. Most people imagine forward. They look at their current circumstances, they look at the mountain ahead, and then they say, someday I'll get there. But that mindset traps them in the very reality they're trying to escape. Because as long as something is imagined in the future, it is not believed in the present. And what isn't believed now has no power to manifest. So what's the alternative? You imagine backwards. You place yourself mentally in the future, in the state already fulfilled, and then you look back from there with the confidence of someone who's already arrived. You say, of course this happened. I've lived it 1,000 times in my mind. And then something inside of you shifts. The fear begins to evaporate. The doubts lose their voice. because you've made the future familiar, and what's familiar is no longer frightening. Now, this isn't fantasy, this isn't delusion, this is responsible creation. You have to remember that the subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's vividly imagined. If you feed it an image long enough, especially one that's emotionally charged and repeated, it begins to organize your behavior consciously and unconsciously to make that image come true. And here's the key, this only works when you're consistent. When you're disciplined enough to stop returning to the version of yourself who doubts, who hesitates, who flinches. You must learn to live in the scene you've imagined day after day, regardless of what your senses tell you. That's the price of transformation. Because there will be resistance. You'll be tempted to check the mirror, to look at the numbers, to ask for reassurance. But the mirror can only reflect the previous state of consciousness, not the one you've just stepped into. The world is slow to catch up, but it always does. The question is, will you hold the vision long enough for it to catch you? If you fold too early, if you abandon the imagined reality because the outer world hasn't yet conformed, then you've trained your mind to believe that only the visible is real. And in doing so, you sever the link between imagination and manifestation. But if you persist, if you stay in the inner movie long enough for the world to change its script, you'll witness a shift so staggering, so undeniable, that it feels like coincidence or even fate. But it's not. It's structure. It's cause and effect. It's the direct outcome of deliberate, disciplined inner vision. That's the real power of imagination. It's not fantasy, it's rehearsal. And your life, whether you like it or not, is the performance. Now, once you've rehearsed the inner vision with enough precision, once your imagination becomes the space you live in, rather than just something you visit occasionally when the world gets too loud, something incredible begins to happen. You'll notice a shift in your perception, a kind of internal recalibration where you stop reacting to life as though you're trapped inside it and start responding as though you've stepped outside of it. And in that space, in that moment, you begin to experience something that most people never even realize is possible, a shift in consciousness. It's not just a new thought. It's not just a better habit. It's an actual shift in the dimension of identity you occupy, and it's terrifying. Because to move from who you were to who you're becoming requires leaving behind everything that felt solid, even if it was miserable. That's the irony of transformation. People say they want change, but they cling to their familiar misery because it feels safe. But once you start stepping into this new space, not by force, but through repetition, through declaration, through imagining from the end, your consciousness begins to take on the texture of the life you've imagined. You stop trying to achieve the new life and you start inhabiting it. That's what creates the real results. This isn't magic. It's structure, it's order, and it's built on a foundation of assumption. Assumption isn't wishful thinking. It's a kind of inner posture. It's the decision to walk, speak, think, and act from a state that hasn't yet shown up on your calendar, your bank statement, or your relationship history, but that already exists in the field of potential. And that field is real, more real than what you're experiencing right now. Because what you're living today is just a delayed reflection of what you previously accepted as true. So the critical question becomes, what state are you assuming now? Not occasionally, not when you're inspired, but habitually, unconsciously, reflexively. Because that assumption is doing more to shape your future than any plan or checklist you've put on your vision board. If you assume lack, you'll manifest lack, regardless of how many opportunities are presented to you. If you assume rejection, you'll interpret every silence as proof that you're unwanted. If you assume powerlessness, then even in moments of strength, you'll second-guess yourself back into weakness. Your assumption is the lens, and the lens controls what you see, how you interpret it, and how you act upon it. People often ask, how do I change my life? The better question is, how do I change what I assume about myself and the world? Because you can't change what you keep assuming to be true. You'll just keep returning to it like gravity. And this is where responsibility comes into play. Brutal, uncomfortable, liberating responsibility. You are not responsible for everything that's happened to you, but you are responsible for what you assume about yourself in response to it. That's the line between victimhood and authority. That's where sovereignty begins. So, how do you assume something new? You practice. You stop waiting for evidence. You stop measuring your worth by external confirmation, and you start rehearsing the internal alignment with such commitment that reality eventually has no choice but to follow suit. You sit with the new version of yourself in silence. You imagine how they speak. You practice how they walk into a room, how they handle conflict, how they respond to doubt, how they invest their time. And then you start living from that, not all at once, but steadily, relentlessly. And it's uncomfortable because you're going to feel like a fraud. You're going to feel disoriented. But that's good. That means your old identity is being disrupted. That's the necessary chaos before the restructuring begins. And if you can hold the assumption long enough, despite the evidence to the contrary, despite the discomfort, despite the pull to regress, you'll eventually feel it settle inside of you. You'll no longer be reaching for a future self. You'll be standing in it. Because assumption, when sustained, becomes identity. And identity, when embodied, reshapes everything. And once that identity settles, once the new assumption hardens into a quiet certainty, you face a final, often overlooked challenge. It isn't about effort now. It isn't about vision. It's about protection. You have to protect the seed. You've spent so much time speaking the new words, imagining from the end, assuming the state of the person you're becoming. And now, just like a sprout pushing up through the soil, your new identity is vulnerable. And if you're not careful, you'll let the weeds of old habits and opinions choke it out before it ever gets the chance to bear fruit. That's the part no one tells you. Everyone's excited to plant the seed. Everyone wants the outcome, but very few are willing to stand guard while it's still fragile, while it hasn't yet bloomed, while there's no applause, no results, no external proof to justify the inner change. And this is where the test begins. Because right when you're doing the right thing, declaring I am, assuming the outcome, seeing yourself clearly, that's when the doubt comes. Not before. Not when you're buried in chaos. It comes when you're close. It comes when you're finally aligned. It comes when you're just beginning to walk like the person you claim to be. You'll be tempted to say something careless. Something like, maybe this isn't working, or what if I was wrong? And those statements, those little compromises, are not harmless. They're cracks in the foundation you've been building. See, your words don't just build things, they also undo them. The moment you speak against what you've declared, even as a joke, even out of frustration, you're undoing the inner structure. You're sending mixed signals to your subconscious. You're giving it permission to return to what it previously knew, your old limitations. You can't afford that. Not now. Not after everything you've done. So you must become a kind of guardian, a watchman over your inner world. You have to get militant about your language, both internal and external. Not in a way that becomes neurotic or controlling, but in a way that reflects respect for the power you now carry. That means no leaking your vision to people who don't believe in it. No entertaining conversations that reduce you back to an older, smaller version of yourself. No passive self-deprecation. You protect the word you planted the same way a skilled craftsman protects his design before it's finished, with boundaries, with focus, with silence. Because the world will try to pull you back, not out of cruelty, sometimes even out of love. People who knew the older version of you will resist the new one. Not because they hate you, because your change challenges their assumptions. And this is when you have to decide, am I going to protect the seed, or am I going to give it away for approval? That's the core of it. Do you want confirmation from others, or do you want results because you don't get both? Not at this stage. There will be a period where no one understands what you're doing. They'll say you've changed, that you're being distant, that you think you're better. Let them say it. Let them misunderstand you. You're not living for their narrative anymore. You're living from the truth you chose. And yes, it's lonely sometimes, of course it is, growth often is, but loneliness is not emptiness, it's space. And space is exactly what your new identity needs to expand. So be deliberate with who you allow near your vision. Be ruthless about what you consume, what voices you listen to, what ideas you rehearse. If it doesn't build the version of you you're becoming, it doesn't belong in your mind. You protect the seed not because it's weak, but because it's becoming. The feeling of already having what you desire is the secret. You do not wait for the world to change before you change. You change within, and the world must follow. You are not a beggar waiting for circumstances to grant you favor. You are the creator, shaping your reality with the certainty of what is already yours. Close your eyes and imagine, not as one who hopes, but as one who knows. Walk as if the thing you seek is already in your possession. Feel the texture of success, the warmth of love, the security of abundance. If you seek wealth, let the weight of gold rest in your palm. If love is your desire, feel the embrace that already belongs to you. You do not question whether the sun will rise, you know it will. Hold your vision with the same certainty. The world you see is only a shadow cast by the beliefs you hold within. If you wish to change the shadow, you must first change the light. You must dwell in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled. Speak from the place of fulfillment, not longing. Walk in the rhythm of one who already possesses all they desire. Let your every thought, every word, every movement be in alignment with this truth. You do not chase. Chasing only affirms separation. You embody. The moment you assume the state of having, reality bends to match your conviction. The law is simple. That which you accept as true hardens into fact. The world is your mirror, faithfully reflecting the state you occupy. Align yourself with the certainty of your fulfilled desire, and life must conform. There is no power outside of you deciding your fate. You are the operant power. What you accept, you experience. What you persist in feeling, you manifest. Shift your focus from wanting to knowing, from seeking to possessing. The moment you live as if your desire is already realized, you command the unseen forces of creation to move in your favor. Nothing is denied to the one who lives in the end. Nothing is withheld from the one who dares to assume. Let the feeling of already having saturate your being, and the world must bow to your conviction. The secret to creating the life you desire lies in your ability to live in the end. This means assuming with absolute conviction that you already possess the thing you seek. It is not about wishing, hoping, or waiting for change. It is about stepping into the state of having right now, in this very moment. The world around you is not fixed. It is fluid, constantly molded by your thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions. You do not need to struggle against circumstances, beg for a better future, or wonder when your desires will manifest. Instead, you step into the feeling of fulfillment, allowing it to saturate your mind and body as though it were already your reality. To live in the end means to feel as if your desire is already accomplished. It is not an act of pretense or mere positive thinking, but a deep inner conviction that what you seek is already yours. You must feel it so profoundly that your mind accepts it as truth. The mind does not differentiate between what is real and what is imagined. It only responds to the dominant emotions and beliefs you hold. When you persist in the feeling of having rather than wanting, your world must shift to reflect that inner state. Most people operate from a place of lack. They look at their current reality and react to it, allowing it to dictate their emotions and beliefs. But if you are waiting for proof before you believe, you are allowing the world to control you. This is why so many struggle, because they are trapped in a cycle of reacting to what is, rather than creating what will be. The key is to break free from this pattern and understand that you are the cause, not the effect. You are not here to be a victim of circumstances, you are here to shape them. Imagine for a moment that everything you desire is already yours. Close your eyes and step into that reality with all your senses. If it is wealth you seek, feel the security, the ease, the confidence that comes with financial abundance. If it is love, feel the warmth, the companionship, the deep connection of already having your perfect relationship. If it is health, feel the vitality, the strength, the peace of being whole and well. Do not just see it, feel it. Let it become real in your mind. This is not daydreaming, this is creation. The moment you embody the feeling of already having, the universe begins to rearrange itself to match your assumption. This is the power of the unseen. Reality is not something happening to you, it is something responding to you. The moment you shift your state of being, everything around you must shift accordingly. The external world is simply a reflection of the inner world. If you hold on to the feeling of already having what you want, it must materialize in your life. It is law. Doubt is the enemy of creation. The moment you question whether your desire will come, you undo your own work. Doubt is simply a signal that you are still seeing yourself as separate from what you want. When you live in the end, there is no room for doubt, because you are not waiting, you are being. There is a difference between hoping and knowing. Hoping suggests uncertainty, knowing is unwavering. When you step into the state of fulfillment, you no longer ask when will it come, because in your mind it is already here. This is why faith is so powerful. Faith is not about believing in something outside of you. It is about knowing the truth within you. It is about standing firm in your assumption regardless of what the physical world appears to show. The world will always try to reflect your old beliefs until your new assumption solidifies. This is why persistence is key. You must remain in the state of fulfillment even when nothing seems to be happening. It is not about forcing reality to change, but about trusting that it must conform. Think of a gardener planting a seed. He does not dig it up every day to see if it is growing. He trusts the process, knowing that if he provides the right conditions, the seed will inevitably sprout. The same is true with your desires. The moment you plant the seed in your imagination and nourish it with the feeling of already having, it must grow into form. The only way you delay it is by doubting, questioning, or shifting back into the state of lack. Living in the end requires a shift in identity. You must no longer see yourself as the person who is striving for something. You must become the person who already has it. This means adjusting your thoughts, emotions, and actions to align with your new reality. Ask yourself, how would I think if I already had what I wanted? How would I speak? How would I carry myself? What choices would I make? Then begin to embody that version of yourself now. Every moment is an opportunity to reinforce your assumption. If old doubts creep in, do not fight them. Simply return to the feeling of already having. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. It is like training a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Over time, this new state of being becomes your default, and reality has no choice but to reflect it back to you. There is no need to force anything. When you live in the end, action becomes effortless. You will naturally be drawn to the right opportunities, the right people, the right circumstances. You will move with confidence and ease because you are no longer seeking, you are experiencing. The struggle, the worry, the endless striving all disappear, replaced by a deep inner knowing that what you desire is already yours. The greatest gift you can give yourself is the realization that you do not have to wait for happiness, success, or fulfillment. You do not have to chase, beg, or prove yourself worthy. You are already worthy. The moment you accept this, the moment you live from the end rather than for it, the entire universe bends to bring your vision into reality. The world you see around you is nothing more than a reflection of your inner state. It is a mirror, faithfully revealing the beliefs, assumptions, and feelings you hold within. Most people believe that their circumstances are random or controlled by external forces, but in truth, everything in your reality is the result of your dominant state of consciousness. If you wish to change your life, you must first change yourself. The outer world cannot shift until your inner world does. Everything you experience is shaped by the thoughts and emotions you entertain. If you constantly dwell in worry, doubt, or fear, life will bring you more situations that reinforce those feelings. If you live in a state of joy, gratitude, and confidence, your world will mold itself to match that energy. This is not wishful thinking. It is a law as precise and unchanging as gravity. The world does not create your state of being. Your state of being creates the world. Consider a person who always expects the worst. They believe that life is difficult, that opportunities are scarce, and that good things rarely happen to them. Because of this belief, they move through life in a state of tension and resistance. They anticipate failure, and so they hesitate to take action. They focus on obstacles, and so they find them everywhere they look. Even when good things come their way, they dismiss them or find reasons why they will not last. Their belief that life is hard becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, contrast that with someone who believes that life is abundant, that opportunities are endless, and that things always work out in their favor. This person walks with ease and confidence. They trust that even challenges are working for their benefit. They expect good things, so they recognize and seize opportunities that others might overlook. They do not waste energy on fear or doubt because their dominant assumption is that all is well, and so their world mirrors this belief, consistently bringing them experiences that affirm their inner state. Both people are living in the same world, but they are experiencing completely different realities. The difference is not in luck, circumstance, or talent. It is in consciousness. Each person is creating their life from within, whether they realize it or not. The outer world is simply an echo, a reflection of what is going on inside. If you wish to change what appears in the mirror, you do not try to manipulate the reflection, you adjust the source. Most people attempt to change their lives by working on the outside first. They try to fix circumstances, control other people, or force external results. But this is like trying to change your reflection in a mirror by adjusting the glass. It does not work. True change happens from within. The moment you shift your inner state, the outer world must follow. It has no choice. If you find yourself stuck in undesirable circumstances, do not look to the world for confirmation of what is possible. Instead, look within and ask, what belief is this reality reflecting back to me? If you are constantly struggling with money, what is your assumption about wealth? Do you believe it is scarce and difficult to obtain? If your relationships are filled with conflict, what are you expecting from others? Do you assume people are untrustworthy, that love is hard to find, or that you are unworthy of affection? The answers to these questions reveal the beliefs shaping your experience. Once you become aware of the inner assumptions creating your reality, you have the power to change them. You do not need to fix the outer world. You only need to shift your state of being. The moment you adopt a new belief, the mirror begins to change. At first, the old reflection may persist, just as a moving train does not stop instantly. But if you remain firm in your new assumption, reality has no choice but to conform. This process requires faith, for the world may not change overnight. The mirror does not always respond instantly, and this is where most people falter. They begin to shift their consciousness, but when they do not see immediate results, they revert to their old patterns of doubt and fear. This is like planting a seed and digging it up every day to see if it has sprouted. Growth takes time. The external world is always catching up to your inner world, but it will catch up if you remain steady in your assumption. Your emotions are a powerful indicator of your inner state. If you feel anxious, worried, or frustrated, these emotions are revealing a misalignment between your desires and your beliefs. Do not ignore these feelings, use them as a guide. Ask yourself, what am I assuming that is creating this emotional response? Once you identify the thought or belief, replace it with one that serves you. Move into the feeling of already having what you desire and let that feeling become your new dwelling place. When you change your inner world, do not force the outer world to change. Simply trust that it will. Your only job is to hold the state of fulfillment within. Reality will rearrange itself to match your dominant vibration, often in ways you could never have planned. People will enter your life at the right time, opportunities will appear effortlessly, and situations that once seemed impossible will shift in your favor. Think of a radio station. If you are tuned to a frequency of lack, struggle, and fear, you cannot receive the broadcast of abundance, ease, and joy. The station is always there, but you must tune in to hear it. In the same way, your desired reality is already available. It exists as a possibility right now. The only thing required is that you align yourself with it by embodying the state of already having. This is why imagining and feeling as if your desire is already fulfilled is so powerful. When you live in the end, you are tuning your frequency to the reality you wish to experience. You are becoming a match for the life you want. And because the world is a mirror, it must reflect that state back to you. There is no need to struggle or fight against circumstances. The moment you shift internally, the external must shift as well. There is no force outside of you dictating your fate. You are the cause and the world is the effect. If you hold to the feeling of already having, the reflection in the mirror will change, and life will bring you exactly what you expect. Chasing implies lack. When you chase something, you affirm that it is not yet yours, that it is separate from you, and that you must work to obtain it. This very mindset creates resistance, pushing what you desire further away. The more you seek, the more you reinforce the idea that what you want is missing. The key to manifestation is not to chase but to embody. When you embody the state of already having, the external world must align to reflect that reality. Think of a magnet. It does not run after metal, it simply possesses the quality that naturally draws metal toward it. The same principle applies to your desires. You do not need to run after success, love, or abundance. Instead, you align yourself with the vibration of those things, and they are drawn to you effortlessly. You do this by assuming the feeling of already being the person who has what you want. You act, think, and move as if it were already yours, not as someone desperately seeking it. Consider someone who desires wealth. If they constantly affirm that they need more money, that they are struggling, and that they lack financial security, they are operating from a state of wanting. They are chasing wealth, believing it is something outside of themselves that must be acquired. But someone who embodies the state of wealth feels and acts as if they are already financially secure. They do not dwell on lack, they focus on the abundance that already exists within them. Their thoughts, emotions, and actions align with the certainty that they have more than enough, and as a result, opportunities for wealth naturally flow into their life. The same is true for love. A person who chases love, desperately seeking validation and affection from others, is affirming that love is something they lack. This creates an energy of neediness which repels rather than attracts. But someone who embodies love radiates it effortlessly. They feel whole and complete within themselves. They do not look for love outside of them because they already experience it internally. And because they are aligned with love, they naturally attract it in their external reality. Embodying means becoming. You must become the version of yourself who already has what you desire. This does not mean forcing or pretending. It means fully embracing the state of being that aligns with your wish fulfilled. If you desire success, embody the confidence, mindset, and habits of a successful person. If you desire health, embody the vitality and wholeness of a healthy person. When you align your inner state with your desire, the physical world follows. This is why action alone is not enough. Many people believe that if they work harder, push more, or chase relentlessly, they will achieve their goals. But action taken from a state of lack only reinforces the belief that what you want is far away. True creation happens when action flows naturally from a state of embodiment. When you already feel successful, the right opportunities present themselves effortlessly. When you already feel abundant, the right financial breakthroughs occur without struggle. When you already feel loved, relationships flourish effortlessly. This does not mean you do nothing, it means that your actions arise from alignment rather than desperation. A person who embodies wealth does not take action out of fear of scarcity. They take action with confidence, knowing that success is inevitable. A person who embodies love does not seek validation. They naturally express love and attract it in return. The key is to act from a place of fulfillment, not longing. Your subconscious mind does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. It only responds to the emotions and beliefs you hold. If you persist in the feeling of already having, your mind accepts it as truth, and reality conforms accordingly. This is why visualization and affirmations are so powerful. Not because they convince the universe to give you something, but because they reprogram your mind to accept your desire as already fulfilled. When you embody, you let go of attachment. You do not need to force things to happen because you trust that they are already yours. This is the opposite of chasing, where you constantly check for results, worry about the outcome, and operate from fear. When you truly embody, you relax into certainty. You know that what you desire is coming, just as surely as the sun rises each morning. You move through life with ease, knowing that everything is unfolding in perfect order. Many people struggle with this concept because they are conditioned to believe in effort, struggle, and competition. Society teaches that you must work hard, fight for what you want, and prove your worth. But true manifestation is not about proving anything. It is about aligning. The moment you step into the state of already having, life arranges itself to reflect that assumption. You do not need to compete. You only need to align. The greatest creators in history understood this principle. They did not chase success, they embodied it. They carried themselves with the certainty that they were already what they desired to be. Whether it was artists, inventors, or leaders, they all operated from a state of knowing. They did not hope for success. They lived as though it were inevitable. And because they believed it to be true, the world confirmed their belief. This is why your self-concept is the foundation of everything you create. You cannot attract what you do not believe yourself to be. If you see yourself as unworthy, no amount of external effort will bring you lasting success. If you see yourself as unlucky in love, no relationship will fulfill you. You must first change how you see yourself. When you shift your identity, the world shifts with you. The process is simple, but it requires faith. You must commit to embodying the state of already having, even when the external world has not yet caught up. At first, your reality may still reflect old beliefs, just as a radio continues playing a station even after you've changed the dial. But if you remain firm in your new state, the outer world must adjust. It has no choice. Your only job is to hold the feeling of fulfillment. When you wake up in the morning, move through your day as if your desire is already yours. Speak, think, and act from that place. Let go of urgency, impatience, and doubt. Trust that everything is unfolding perfectly. When you stop chasing and start embodying, life flows effortlessly, and what you once pursued begins to pursue you. Desires are not random. They are not fleeting wishes that appear in your mind without purpose. Every true desire that arises within you is a seed planted by the infinite intelligence of life itself. It is not something separate from you, it is an extension of who you are. You would not have a deep longing for something unless it was already yours in consciousness, waiting to be expressed in the physical world. Most people look at their desires and feel a sense of separation. They think, I want this, but I do not have it. That thought alone creates resistance, for it affirms the absence of what is wanted. When you believe your desire is something outside of you, something you must struggle to obtain, you push it further away. But when you recognize that your desires are simply an invitation to embody the state of already having, you step into the natural flow of creation. Everything in existence begins as an unseen reality, before it takes physical form. The house you live in was once an idea in someone's mind. The chair you sit on was once only a vision before it became tangible. Every invention, every piece of art, every great achievement started first in consciousness before it was expressed in the world. Your desires are no different. They already exist in the unseen realm. Your task is not to create them from nothing, but to align with them so they can manifest in your experience. The moment you accept that your desires are already yours, your entire perception shifts. You no longer feel the weight of waiting, the pressure of uncertainty, or the anxiety of how it will happen. Instead, you move with certainty, knowing that what you have asked for is already on its way. This is not delusion, it is the understanding of how reality truly works. The world is simply a reflection of your inner state. When you assume the feeling of already having, reality must adjust to bring that experience to you. This is why it is crucial to release all doubts. The only thing that can delay your desire is your own disbelief. Many people waver between faith and fear. One moment they believe their dream is possible, the next moment they question if it will ever come. This back and forth keeps them stuck, for the universe responds to the dominant energy you hold. If you truly believe something is already yours, you do not question it, you do not beg for it, and you do not look to the world for proof. You simply know. And in that knowing, the manifestation becomes inevitable. Think of a tree. When you plant a seed, you do not dig it up every day to see if it is growing. You trust that the soil, the sun, and the rain will do their part. You nurture it, but you do not interfere with its natural process. The same is true for your desires. The moment you fully accept that they are already yours, they begin to take root in the unseen. Your role is to nurture that belief, not to doubt the process. Many people believe they must work tirelessly to achieve their desires, that only through struggle can they attain what they want. But true manifestation is not about struggle, it is about alignment. It is about shifting your inner world so completely that the outer world has no choice but to conform. This does not mean you do nothing. It means that the actions you take arise effortlessly from a state of certainty rather than desperation. When you know something is yours, you do not force things to happen. You allow them to unfold naturally. Consider someone who desires love. If they constantly search for a partner, feeling lonely and incomplete, they are affirming their lack. Their energy radiates longing, and so they continue to attract experiences that reflect that emptiness. But if they instead embody the state of already being loved, they move through life with confidence and joy. They do not seek validation because they already feel whole, and in that wholeness, love effortlessly finds them. The same is true for wealth. A person who constantly worries about money, who counts every penny in fear, is affirming scarcity. They may work harder and harder, yet their financial struggles persist because they are living in the state of lack. But someone who embodies abundance, who feels prosperous regardless of their current bank balance, attracts wealth with ease. They do not chase money, they become a magnet for it. When you believe your desires are already yours, you release all resistance. You stop questioning when they will come, how they will come, or if they will come at all. You step into a state of peace, knowing that what you have asked for is already unfolding in the perfect way. This trust is the key. Most people sabotage their manifestations by constantly checking for results, feeling anxious about timing and doubting their worthiness. But those who truly understand the creative process know that the moment they assume their desire as already fulfilled, the work is done. Time is an illusion when it comes to manifestation. Many people believe they must wait for their desires, that they are at the mercy of external forces. But in reality, everything happens according to the state you occupy now. If you continue to see your desire as something in the future, it will remain in the future. But if you step into the state of already having now, it must come into your present reality. This is why feeling is so powerful. You must feel the reality of your desire before it appears. If you want success, feel successful now. If you want love, feel love now. If you want abundance, feel abundant now. This is not pretending. It is shifting your vibration to align with the version of you that already has what you seek. The world is simply a mirror, reflecting back whatever state you consistently embody. Many people misunderstand this and think they must ignore their current reality. But it is not about ignoring. It is about choosing which reality you will give power to. If your external world does not yet match your inner vision, do not let it dictate your belief. Hold firm to the unseen reality you are creating. The physical world is always playing catch-up to your consciousness. If you persist in the assumption of already having, your outer reality will eventually conform. There is no force outside of you deciding what you can or cannot have. You are the creator. The only limitations that exist are the ones you accept. If you believe something is beyond your reach, it will be. But if you accept that it is already yours, no power in the universe can keep it from you. This is why faith is the final key. Faith is not hoping, wishing, or waiting. It is knowing. It is the unshakable certainty that what you desire is already yours. When you hold this faith, nothing can disturb you. You do not react to temporary appearances. You remain steady in your assumption, and in that steadiness, reality bends to match your conviction. The moment you claim your desire is already fulfilled, the wheels are set in motion. Circumstances will shift. People will appear, and opportunities will unfold in ways you could never have predicted. You do not need to figure out how. It is not your concern. Your only job is to remain in the feeling of already having. The rest will take care of itself. When you finally accept this truth, you will no longer wait for your desires to come. You will live as though they are already here, and in that living, they will become your reality. Letting go is the final step in the process of manifestation, yet it is often the most misunderstood. Many people believe that letting go means giving up, that it means abandoning their desire and resigning themselves to whatever life brings. But true letting go is not about detachment from the desire itself. It is about detachment from the doubt, the fear, the urgency, and the need to control how and when it will appear. It is the complete trust that what you have asked for is already done, already unfolding, and already yours. Most people struggle with this because they are conditioned to believe that they must constantly take action, constantly strive, and constantly check for results. They plant the seed of their desire, but then dig it up every day to see if it has grown. This impatience disrupts the process, creating resistance and reinforcing the belief that what they want is still missing. But when you truly understand the creative power of your mind, you realize that the moment you have claimed something as yours, it is already set in motion. Your only job is to remain in the state of already having it, without constantly questioning or doubting. Imagine placing an order at a restaurant. Once you have chosen what you want and given your request to the waiter, you do not worry about whether the food will arrive. You do not keep asking if the chef has started cooking, nor do you run into the kitchen to check if your meal is being prepared. You simply relax, knowing that it is on its way. You trust the process. The same is true with your desires. The moment you have impressed your subconscious mind with the assumption that what you want is already yours, the process has begun. Your only task is to trust that it is being orchestrated perfectly. without needing to interfere. The reason letting go is so powerful is that it removes resistance. The more you worry about when or how something will happen, the more you push it away. Worry is a signal to your subconscious mind that you do not yet believe in the reality of your desire. And because your reality reflects your inner state, it continues to show you evidence of lack, delay, and struggle. But when you truly let go, when you release all attachment to the outcome and surrender to the knowing that it is already done, you allow things to unfold effortlessly. This does not mean you stop caring about your desires. It means you no longer obsess over them. You no longer feel the need to chase, to force, or to manipulate circumstances. You no longer check the external world for signs and confirmations. Instead, you rest in the feeling of already having, and because you are no longer in a state of resistance, what you desire can flow to you naturally. The paradox of letting go is that the more you release, the faster things come. When you stop trying to control every detail, when you stop worrying about whether it will happen, you create space for it to appear in the most effortless way. Think of holding water in your hands. If you grasp it too tightly, it slips through your fingers. But if you hold it lightly, it remains effortlessly in your palm. The same principle applies to manifestation. The tighter you cling, the more resistance you create. But when you trust, when you loosen your grip, everything flows with ease. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that their happiness is dependent on their desires manifesting. They think, I will be happy when I get the job, when I find love, when I have more money. But this very mindset creates a gap between them and their desire. It places happiness in the future rather than in the present. And because reality mirrors your state of being, that future happiness remains just out of reach. But when you decide to feel happy now, to feel fulfilled now, regardless of what is happening externally, you align yourself with the vibration of already having, and your desires manifest effortlessly. Letting go is an act of faith. It is the deep, unwavering knowing that what you have asked for is already yours, even if you cannot yet see it. It is the understanding that the universe is always working in your favor, orchestrating the perfect path to bring your desire into reality. But most people struggle with faith because they have been conditioned to believe only what they can see. They look at their current circumstances and think, but nothing has changed. And because they keep focusing on what is, they keep recreating the same reality. But faith does not come from seeing evidence. Faith is what brings evidence into being. It is the willingness to believe in the unseen, to trust in the process, to remain steadfast in your assumption, even when everything around you appears the same. It is knowing that just as a seed takes time to sprout, just as the sun rises even when the sky is dark, your manifestation is unfolding in perfect timing. This is why people who embody a carefree, relaxed state seem to attract everything effortlessly. They are not worrying, they are not forcing, they are not stressing over details. They simply know that life will always bring them what they need when they need it. And because they do not resist, life flows smoothly for them. Meanwhile, those who worry, who doubt, who constantly check for results, remain stuck in a cycle of frustration. Letting go also means releasing attachment to a specific outcome. Often people limit themselves by being too rigid about how their desires should manifest. They say it must happen in this way, at this time, through this person. But the universe has infinite ways to bring you what you want, often in ways far greater than you could have imagined. When you let go of the need to control every detail, you allow room for the highest possible outcome to unfold. The key to this is surrender. Surrender does not mean giving up, it means trusting completely. It means allowing yourself to relax into the knowing that everything is already working out in your favor. It means releasing all fear, all doubt, all urgency, and stepping fully into the present moment with confidence and ease. One of the most powerful ways to practice letting go is through gratitude. When you focus on what you already have, when you appreciate the blessings in your life now, you shift your energy from lack to abundance. You affirm to the universe that you are already fulfilled, and in doing so, you naturally attract more to be grateful for. Gratitude aligns you with the feeling of already having, which is the very state that allows your desires to manifest. Another way to practice letting go is to immerse yourself in joy. Do not put your life on hold waiting for your manifestation to appear. Live fully now. Do things that bring you happiness. Engage in activities that uplift you. Surround yourself with people who inspire you. The more you cultivate joy in the present moment, the faster your desires will come, because joy is the highest vibration of creation. Ultimately, letting go is the final and most powerful step in manifestation. It is the surrender to the flow of life, the trust in the unseen, the unwavering faith that what you desire is already yours. It is the release of resistance, the embrace of gratitude, and the decision to live fully now. And when you master the art of letting go, you will find that everything you once sought begins to seek you.
Perhaps you are listening to this now, and you feel a certain weariness, a spiritual exhaustion. You have done everything you were taught to do. You have affirmed. You have visualized. You have walked in the assumption of your wish fulfilled as best you know how. And yet, your desire remains at a distance. Perhaps it even feels further away now than when you first began. Maybe it is money that seems to slip through your fingers, a relationship that refuses to blossom, or a career that feels stuck no matter how hard you push. You chase and it flees. You push and it resists. It is a divine paradox. The tighter you grasp for that beautiful butterfly, the more you crush its delicate wings. What if I told you that the very effort you are applying is the only thing standing in your way? That the immense energy you are using to force your desire into being is the very reason it has not yet arrived. In our time together today, we will explore this delicate and most powerful art, the art of allowing. We will learn why letting go is not the same as giving up, but is in fact the highest form of faith. And I will show you what to do instead of forcing to finally let what you desire come to you as effortlessly and as naturally as the sun rises in the morning. Stay with me, for in the next moment, I shall show you why all your effort has been in vain, and why letting go is the hidden key you have overlooked. To understand why your intense effort may be failing you, you must first understand a strange and wonderful paradox of the mind, a principle which demonstrates that your will and your imagination are often at war, and that in such a war, your imagination will always win. The harder you try to consciously force a state with your will, while your imagination is convinced of its opposite, the more you amplify the very state you are trying to escape. It is like holding a cork underwater. The more you push it down, the more you feel its powerful urge to rise. The moment you cease your effort, it shoots to the surface effortlessly. Your feeling of lack, your deep-seated belief that you do not have your desire, that is the cork. Your frantic effort is the force holding it down, constantly reminding you of its buoyancy, of its reality in your world. You must understand that every feeling you entertain radiates a specific nonverbal signature. It is a broadcast. The frequency of lack is easy to recognize. It is charged with anxiety, impatience, and the frantic energy of need. The frequency of fulfillment, however, is one of peace, satisfaction, and a quiet gratitude. Your effort, born of strain, is simply a prolonged broadcast of the frequency of lack. Think of the story of Peter attempting to walk upon the water. As long as his attention was fixed upon his goal, upon the Master, he did the impossible. He defied the world of Caesar. But the moment he looked away, the moment he saw the winds and the waves, the facts of his 3D reality, doubt entered his mind. He began to sink. And in that moment of fear, he began to try. He began to force himself to stay afloat, to fight the evidence of his senses. And the more he struggled against the storm, the faster he sank. His success came from a state of calm assumption. His failure came from a state of effort born of fear. That story is your story. Your desire is your master, calling to you. The winds and the waves are the doubts and contradictory facts of your life. To struggle with them, to force them, is to sink. Forcing is an admission to yourself that you are not in the state of the wish fulfilled. For if you truly were the person who had your desire, would you be struggling to obtain it? No, you would be at peace. You would feel a quiet confidence. The feeling would be natural. So you see, the goal is not to try harder. The goal is to feel it differently, to feel it as normal, as simple, as natural. So then, what remains is to discover how this feeling may be cultivated and how it may become the atmosphere of your daily life. So how does one cultivate this feeling of naturalness? How does one move from the violent energy of forcing to the quiet confidence of allowing? It is not accomplished by a grand single action, but by a series of subtle internal shifts. Let us take them one by one. The first is the great shift in focus. You must move your attention from getting to being. Your true work is not to acquire the thing you desire. It is to become, in imagination, the person who already has it. If you desire wealth, you do not spend your day anxiously chasing money. Instead, you ask yourself, what would my inner conversations be like if I were already wealthy? How would I see the world? What assumptions would I hold as true? Then you begin to think from that state. You are no longer a poor man wanting wealth. You are a wealthy man simply living his life. The second key is to redefine what it means to live in the end. Many have been taught that this is a state of constant, effortful visualization. It is not. Living in the end is a state of satisfaction. Think of how you feel after a wonderful meal. You do not continue to stare at the menu, anxiously hoping for food to arrive. You are satisfied. You are at peace. That quiet satisfaction, that inner knowing it is done, that is the true feeling of the wish fulfilled. Your imaginal act is the feast, and the satisfaction is the state you must carry throughout your day. The third key is to discover the secret of the present moment. All desperation springs from the feeling that something is missing now. The remedy is to feel fulfillment in this moment, even before your desire appears. At the end of your day, find one thing, anything for which you can feel genuine gratitude. A kind word, a moment of beauty, the comfort of your bed. By practicing the feeling of gratitude, you are practicing the feeling of fulfillment. And when you can find fulfillment in your present moment, you release the desperate need for the future to be different. In that release, the future is suddenly free to become what you have imagined. The fourth key is to build for yourself a mental sanctuary. This is a short, simple imaginal scene that implies your wish is already fulfilled. Not the moment of receiving it, but a moment after. If you desire marriage, your scene could be as simple as feeling the cool, smooth wedding band on your finger while washing your hands. If you desire success, it could be a brief congratulatory conversation with a friend, hearing them say, "I always knew you would do it." This scene is your anchor. When the storms of doubt arise in your day, you do not fight the doubt. You simply retreat to your mental sanctuary for a few seconds, feel it real, and return to your day with faith restored. Now, a word of caution to keep you from undoing your work. First, you must resist the impulse to anxiously look for it in your outer world. Every time you check for proof with anxiety, you are performing a powerful imaginal act of doubt. You are impressing your subconscious with the feeling, It is not here yet, and your subconscious, unfailingly loyal, accepts that feeling as your new command. Think of a baker who has placed a cake in the oven. He has done his part. He does not open the oven door every 2 minutes to see if it has risen. To do so would let out the heat and ruin the cake. Your sustained assumption, your faith, is the heat that bakes your desire into reality. Once you have placed it in the oven, you must leave the door closed. Second, do not discuss your desire with those who are not in sympathy with your aim. Your imaginal act is a tender new creation, a new state of consciousness. Exposing it to the cold winds of doubt and ridicule can chill your conviction, causing you in turn to doubt your own creation. Keep your secret. Let it grow strong within you until it is ready to be born as a fact in your world. This is the art of allowing. It is not about doing more, but about being more. It is a gentle, loving alignment with the reality of your desire. So what does this state of true detachment, of allowing, actually feel like? Let me be clear. It is not apathy. It is not indifference. It is not giving up on your desire. In fact, it is the highest and most potent form of faith. It is the calm assurance of the farmer who has planted a seed in good soil. He does not fret nor dig it up each day. He simply knows he has done his part, and the law of growth will do the rest. It is the feeling of having ordered a fine meal at a wonderful restaurant. You do not follow the waiter into the kitchen to make sure the chef is cooking. You simply relax at your table, enjoying the ambiance, knowing that in due time your order will be served. It is the same assurance with which you know the sun will rise. You do not wake each night in fear, wondering if the dawn will come. You simply know it, and so you rest. In like manner, you must rest in the certainty of your desire fulfilled. For remember, to desire is to confess you do not have. You assume it, you accept it, and then you rest in the knowledge that it is done. Creation is finished. What you seek is already yours. You need only to accept it